Today we are doing what's never been done before, and that is to use a computerized utility pump and replace a Zoller M98 in a working system. Hey, good morning. Chuck here with Apple Drainage Contractors. You know, from time to time, probably once a week, I'll get an email from a manufacturer that wants us to promote their product. And I always just delete them. I usually don't, do anything with them. But there was one that came through that caught my eye, and that was this little guy right here. He's called the SmartBot Super 360. And this is a 1/2 horsepower utility pump. It's different than a regular sump pump because it doesn't have a float. This is the flappy float. You've seen this one on many of my videos. This is our kind of go-to pump when the customer really wants to save a lot of money. This is a really inexpensive pump as compared to the Zoller M98, which is very expensive. But I'm going to go ahead and check this pump out. We're going to do a couple of experiments with it. I see a lot of really good benefits, and we'll put that in the video here in just a few minutes. But first, let's go ahead and unpack it, see what they gave us. So they gave us a lot of fittings, and what's really great about this pump is that it's a 2-inch discharge, and I'll show you that. So they gave us a permanent fitting here where we can actually plumb this and we can hook it up to our existing pipe. Most homes have, for your crawl space basement, even the backyard sump pump has 1.5-inch discharge. And if you're in a crawl space or a basement, usually comes up out through the wall and ties into the downspout drain. The backyard sump pump can also tie into the downspout drain, but here in Florida where I'm at, we usually pump that all the way out to the street because we've hooked up the downspout to our sump basin. So it's not only collecting the backyard water, but it's also collecting the roof water as well. So anyways, they gave us a bunch of fittings here. We're going to go over those. Let's pull out the pump. And they kind of market it as a robot pump. Can you see that? You see the two little eyes? When we plug that in, it's going to turn green, and I guess it's kind of cute. But what we're interested in is what it's actually going to do for rainwater drainage. They also sent me a discharge hose, but they sent the wrong fittings on the back of it and the front of it. That's actually a clamp fitting. It won't fit on any of their fittings that they sent me, but that's okay because we have lots of discharge hoses. You can see the threaded end here, and we can actually thread that onto one of their adapters, and it'll work just great. These are 25-foot hoses, and before I even go any further, the best thing I can see for this pump truly is if you've got a flooded basement, they say that this pump can pump the water down to like 1/16 of an inch. That's just almost no water at all. So if you don't have a sump system in your basement, and whatever reason it floods, you can just set this guy down there, hook up a discharge hose, or you could even put a garden hose on this. I'll show you that too, and pump your basement dry. So it's got good benefits. So let's go ahead and set up this pump real quick. We'll see what we can do with that. Because we're going to adapt to 1.5 inch, I'm going to use one of their fittings, and it came with a whole bunch of threaded fittings here that we can put onto a garden hose. This is a 1-inch fitting. This looks like 1.25 inch. And what we want is the 1.5 inch. So using this straight 90 that came with the pump, we're going to go ahead and thread that in. Just make sure you don't cross thread it. And we'll bring this tight to the upright position. Looks good. And again, they had a 1.5 inch adapter. It comes with an 1.5 inch adapter, and it's all threaded, and I'll show you the only disadvantage of that, but we're going to go ahead and tighten that on. Tighten that all the way down. What this package doesn't come with, because it's really not designed for what we're going to do with it, it doesn't come with this fitting. So if you have to go to Lowe's or Home Depot, whatever, you can pick this one up. This is a female 1.5 inch. That means it's got threads inside, and then it's got the slip on the other side, which accepts the glue for your 1.5" PVC. Remember, we're going to try to adapt this so that it actually kicks on and goes through an 1.5" system already installed. So this is the port, if you remember how we set things up. Okay, here is the Zoller M98. That's our standard go-to pump. Sometimes we use the 1/3 of a horsepower, but this is a 1/2 horsepower pump, and you've seen me do this many times. Male threaded 1.5" adapter. It goes right into that port. And we will screw that down hand tight. Just as tight as you can make it with your hand. Then we cut a small piece of PVC, just large enough to get past this protection bar. That's all we have to do, is get past that bar. And then the check valve, will sit on top of that. And don't forget about your arrows. There's markings on the pump somewhere. Here it is, right here. Don't forget about those arrows. Can you see that little arrow? That tells you the direction of flow. That's going to sit on top of that, and then we connect to our system, or you're installing a new system. And all of this is going to be down in your sump basin, which is still going to be underground except for the lid. We come out through the side, and so your entire discharge is underground. So this little SmartBot sets up the same way, but we're going to say it different. We're going to say female threaded adapter, slides onto the port, and you screw this down hand tight. Just remember not to cross thread. And the best way not to cross thread is kind of spin it backwards until you feel it drop on. Once you feel it drop on, you can just go ahead and crank it down. And again, these are designed for wrenches, but don't do it. Put it on there hand tight. Perfect. And then we're going to go ahead and do the same thing. We're going to glue up the 1.5" PVC and put the check valve on the top. However we connect it to our existing system, and we're going to do that one in just a second. Be sure to watch part 2 of this video, where we show you different configurations of how to set up the SmartBot and some actual time test of how much water these pumps move and how quickly they move the water. I think you'll be surprised. Next, we're going to install that SmartBot into an existing system. Okay, you can kind of see what's going on here. This is an outdoor sump basin, and it actually collects water from about an acre, well, 3/4 of an acre, and it quit working. So you can see this is the Zoller M98, and the float's completely up. Nothing's happening. So this pump's burned out. What we want to do is first we need to be able to get to the pump. So we're going to have to pump that water out. This will be the best benefit of this guy for the DIY. I can set him down in here. And we're going to plug him in. We've got 25 foot of 2-inch discharge, and I'll show you that also. So we've got 25 feet of 2-inch discharge, and it just runs out. We're just going to pump it right over there. But this is probably the best benefit of the SmartBot for the DIY and rainwater drainage. And I would use this, carry it in my truck, and when we come across a flooded sump pump, a flooded basin, whether it be in a basement or a crawl space or out here in the backyard, we can use this to pump it out. I'm going to go ahead and kick it on. So basically I'm just going to plug it in. Takes a few seconds for it to sense the water, and it should kick on. There it goes. And you can see it pumping out over there. Good discharge, and it's already pumped it down where we can work on it. So let's take a look. So if you can see it, water has been backed up inside the entire system. Inside our entire system, you can still see it coming in. But we're down low enough that we'll let it run for a few minutes, and you can see it filling up, senses the water, and kicks it out. So it does have kind of like a float inside of it, but it's more of just a water sensor. So it should work when we take this apart it should work as a regular sump pump. We're going to find out. So most homeowners, or even a really great DIY, probably will not have this 2-inch hose with a threaded, female threaded end on it. But what we can do is, using one of the adapters that came with the SmartBot 3600, is we can actually hook up a garden hose. And it's just going to, this is 3/4 of an inch, and we can just screw this right down onto the port. And that was all furnished, not the garden hose, but all of the ports. So we can screw that down on there. Let's see how well this works. Okay, so we've got the garden hose hooked onto the SmartBot. Let's go ahead and plug it in. It takes a few seconds for it to sense the water. There it goes. Let's go see what's happening here. Remember, this is going to be much slower than the 2-inch discharge, or 1.5 inch, just because we've reduced the size, of the discharge pipe. But I can see that going down. It's going down pretty good. You can see I've got 100 feet of hose on here, but pretty good pressure coming out. Looking pretty good. So we'll let that pump it out, and then we're going to go ahead and just change out the Zoller and put that SmartBot down in there. The SmartBot 3600 is a 1/2 horsepower pump, and what I'm showing you is how much pressure you can actually achieve with a 3/4 inch garden hose. It works really good. Granted, the 2-inch discharge, it moves water really fast. It rivals the Zoller M98. So I can see a great application for this, especially for homeowners. This pump is so lightweight, you can lift it up with your pinky. And this is pulling the water out of here. You can see the air bubbles coming up. This is a flooded system. I mean, there's, I don't know, 200 or 300 feet of 4-inch pipe, French drain, and all that water is saturated into the soil. So it's taking it out slowly but surely. It is taking it out. I've got a 100-foot hose on here, and just showed you, that it comes out pretty quick. The homeowner, I can see great applications for this. Easy to use. Keep it as a spare in case your pump fails, and then you can easily add the garden hose and pump it wherever you want. I've got 100 feet on here, so it could push it, from your basement all the way out, outside through a window, or through the house for that matter. But works really good. So that's really the second greatest benefit. The first was easy for us to pump this water out, where we can get down here and work on the actual pump. So first we have to pull out the old Zoller, and this one actually has a no hub band on it, where I can take it apart right here. I'm going to do that. Use my handy dandy Black & Decker 5/16 inch nut driver. What we want to do is just loosen up that clamp. Then we can finagle the pump to come out of here, maybe. Then we just pull it out. Remember, these are heavy. Get it out of the way. There we go. Good. So now we need to make the measurement from the bottom of the pit up to right here using the SmartBot. And it's going to be a little bit of pipe to cut, and put a check valve in there, and we're ready to go. Okay, so we have our check valve installed, and I didn't have to do a whole lot of cutting. Just make the measurement from this 90 down to the port, the discharge port of the SmartBot, and put the check valve on, tighten up the no hubs, and it fit right in there. Plenty of room to spare. Let's go ahead and plug this in and see if this is going to push it all the way out to the street. It's about 200, 300 feet up. We'll walk it off. Let me find the cord. Okay, we're plugging it in. There it goes. Okay, let's walk out front and see what's going on there. Have to do this kind of quick because that pumps pretty fast. I do have a garden hose running in the system, so we should be able to get something going on from that. But it comes all the way out here to the front, and like I said, I think it's about 280 feet, almost 300 feet out here. Almost a football field. And let's see if that pump pushes it out here. Oh yeah, I see it. Yep. It's right here. You can see it kick back on again. So it's kind of like it has a float. Kind of. It's sensing the water. As it dries it down, then it shuts off. And then the sensor says, okay, more water, and kicks it on. So it's kind of like a float. Technology is pretty cool. I don't know how long that pump will last with that technology, but you can see it kicking on, and it's shut down. It kicks on, it shuts down. As it senses water to the level that they said a 1/16 of an inch. I think it's closer to a 1/2 inch. But that's great. It does kick on, does cycle through, fills up. I can hear it coming on. There it is. So it does work. I'm going to leave it in our sump basin and let it run. Hopefully it rains here. We haven't had any rain for I don't know how long, a long time. But yeah, we'll just let it run and see how well it works. Okay, so I could hear it as I walk back here, and you can see we've got water coming from the French drain and a catch basin going down into the basin, and the water level rises up. Looks like it has to rise up about an inch for that thing to kick on. There it goes. And it shuts down because the water level is now down to the sensor. So again, I think this is a pretty good little pump. Is it as fast as the Zoller M98? There's very little difference with that. Okay, so we just walked out front, and you can see that it took the water out of this basin no problem at all. And we've got water running into a catch basin about 65, 70 feet back, and that's just so we can fill up the basin to act like it's raining outside. I think this pump's pretty good. You know, this is pushing through a check valve and comes to 1.5 inches. This pipe actually changes to 2 inch after it comes out of the pit. But because most things that we use in our industry today that's standard is 1.5 inches, we had to run 1.5 inches up and come out. They do make 2 inch check valves, and we could have went down there deeper and started with the 2 inch, but this is fine. And we're gonna let this run. I'm gonna shut the water off, see how well this thing actually senses water in the future. We'll leave it in here for 30 days, see what it does. So, do I think this will outlast the Zoller? I don't know, because this is really technology. In other words, there's a motherboard, there's chips, there's all kinds of things going on down here that, will they last? I mean, the television will last 20 years. So I don't know if that pump will keep working. We're going to find out. We're going to give it a 30-day test, and I'll make another video about that, and we'll go from there. SmartBot 3600, Super 3600, 1/2 horsepower, light as a feather. So many good applications that we found today. Another one would be to keep it temporary in your garage. If you've got window wells around your basement, maybe they've filled up before. Set this little guy down in there just with the garden hose, and you'll be able to pump them just dry as a bone. So thanks, SuperBot, for sending us a pump to try out, and hopefully you like our review. Like I say, I do think I would recommend this to the homeowner and the DIY. So the SmartBot 3600, you know, I had my doubts and I had expectations. You guys take a look at that video. I hope that you watch it again, because there's a lot of information in there, and we're going to let that pump sit in our yard, in our basin, for the next 30 days, and hopefully we get some rain to test it out. But what I'm really curious about is the electronics. You know, the standard older pumps with floats that go up and down, they've been tested for years. You know, we've been using sump pumps for 60, 70, 80 years, maybe longer. But SmartBot 3600, it surprised me. I think it's a pretty good pump, and you might give it a try, especially if you're a DIY homeowner. Pick up one of these pumps. They're on Amazon. There's a link in the description box below, and grab one and put it in your garage. I'll bet you that you find uses for this that you never thought of. Thank you, Superbot team, all you guys that built this pump and sending it to me. That was quite nice. Hey, this is Chuck with Apple Drains, reminding you that if you believe you can do something, I guarantee you can do it. Have a great day.